Hi everyone, Lior here with another Jumpstart Lightning episode. Today I'm starting a new series with Darren here from Weaveworks. That's a series that we're gonna launch with the Weaveworks team to talk about all things GitOps. Play the music. Hi everyone, Lior here, and I have Darren from Weaveworks with me. Darren, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you? Happy Friday.
I'm doing great. Happy Friday. Yes, we are recording on a Friday, which is always fun. Darren, before we're kicking things off, I'm excited about this series with the Weaveworks crew. First thing first, who you are and what is it that you do?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Darren Madams. I'm a solutions architect with Weaveworks. I've been with them a little over a year and a half now. So living the cloud native GitOps life every day.
I love it. Living the cloud and GitOps life. That's definitely something that I need to put on a shirt. Um, so Darren, we're starting a new series with Weaveworks. This is the first episode, and in this series, I really wanted to talk to the Weaveworks crew about their perspective about the GitOps universe. This is a universe that I'm very excited about. I'm very invested in. I like the demos that I'm doing on GitOps. It's always something that I see immediate results. It's something that clicks and resonate very well. And
Right.
I just wanted to have like conversations with the Weaveworks engineers, see some cool demos, and everything is between. So the first question that I have for you, there, Darren, is share with me for a second, as someone that is working for Weaveworks, share with me for a second, like your perspective on this universe of GitOps and how Weaveworks are thinking about this.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting thing because our founder, Alexis Richardson, is the one that coined the term GitOps. So on one hand, we kind of lay a lot of claim to what is real GitOps, but
Mhm.
really we've handed that over to the CNCF to decide now. So I mean, the definition here is from Open GitOps. So that's a working group of all of the companies that have come together to decide collectively what is Git. And
Yeah,
there's a
and
lot of companies that, yeah, go ahead.
yeah. I'm saying, I'm seeing the slide, and I'm kind of thinking to myself, the first question here, Darren, or observation, which is something that I'm sure you can share with me here, is that, DevOps has been there for a while, right? And now
Right.
I also had a conversation in one of the previous Jumpstart Lightning episode with Michael Cade. He was the guy that wrote the 90 Days of DevOps, and we were talking about the notion of DevOps is dead, platform engineering is the new thing. Um, and then
Yeah.
you also have GitOps, which kind of adds, I guess, I don't know if it adds complexity, or I guess complexity to the conversation in terms of understanding something new.
Yeah, and I listened to that episode and I thought he had a really interesting thought about putting his own slide decks into Git, right? And I thought that's kind of a good example of where GitOps is. It's all around Git, right? You've got to have that central source of truth. You kind of then inherit a lot of the other stuff, the versioning and immutability from that. Platform engineering, we deal with a lot of platform engineers who use GitOps to do
Mhm.
platform engineering. So that's a weird one for us. I think they're kind of compatible, right? You can still do platform engineering, just do it in a
Yeah.
GitOps way.
The I have a question for you, and I know that you have a cool demo to show me. We're here to talk also about Weaveworks with GitOps Enterprise. But I have a question to you that kind of on my mind when it comes to GitOps. Is this something that you see people using only for their continuous integration pipelines, or is it something that actually stretch to the delivery pipelines as well? Let's just say, what's the adoption that you see around this?
Yeah, it's definitely in the CD space of the world, right? The Flux agent is the one that's doing that continuous delivery and the reconciliation. That's the key point, right? There's a lot of ways to automatically deploy something. It's quite a
Mhm.
more difficult and more important problem to solve, keeping that reconciled with your desired state that you've got within your Git repo.
All right. And I remember I saw a demo I don't know, maybe a couple of years ago, when I think it was from Weaveworks. I'm not super sure, but I saw a demo that is using actually GitOps to build clusters,
Yeah,
using cluster API. And I know that in Weaveworks and and GitOps Enterprise, we're going to see it in a second here. I know that Cluster API is also baked into that, and which is a project that I'm a fanboy of Cluster API, definitely. So will be good. Will be cool to see just kind of how that fit into that model. So I know, Darren, I know that you have a demo to show me today, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's dive into it.
Yeah, I did want to talk about Cappy. Cappy fits in really well because it is declarative, right? And it is a definition you can put in Git. So yeah, that's another piece that Weave GitOps Enterprise, using that Flux agent, can reconcile those clusters. We also built in some capability to create new clusters. We do that through templates. And templates are a really simplified way of enabling end users, which could be app developers or platform people, to spin up new clusters. Really, just a simple form is all they need to
Yeah.
be able to build a Cappy cluster.
So this is the Weave GitOps console, right? What we're
Yep.
seeing right now.
This is Weave GitOps Enterprise. Yep. So this is our
Okay,
commercial
so
offering.
this is basically the gateway for the control plane to everything that you guys are doing. Walk me through for a second about the use case here, like the overarching use cases for using GitOps Enterprise.
Yeah, so we believe GitOps is the best way to manage your cloud native ecosphere. And Weave GitOps Enterprise helps enable that from the infrastructure provisioning and lifecycle management all the way to application deployment. And we do that in a trusted manner by wrapping policy as code around all of those steps.
Okay, so if I would to say, and this is kind of a shameless plug, obviously Jumpstart Lightning, Azure Arc, hybrid, all those good stuff, and obviously we use Flux as part of Azure Arc enabled Kubernetes. That's the mechanism that we use for for the Flux extension for the GitOps
Yep.
offering that we have on top of Azure Arc enabled Kubernetes, and like how does that fit into that model? Like when you look at, I wanted to ask you before, just kind of showing some of the template. I saw this and I was excited about this. But how does the hybrid model fits into the GitOps universe? What is your
Yeah,
perspective on this?
really well, and that's one of the main reasons you'd use our enterprise product, is that we can create clusters across all of the various cloud providers, as well as on-prem. Bare Metal, we have this Liquid Metal project to create Kubernetes clusters using micro VMs, vSphere on-prem or in the cloud. Really the tooling, all of these templates are going to look the same to the end user. We're helping enable that hybrid or multi-cloud approach.
So basically, you're able using templates, right? So talk to me for a second about the templates mechanism, right? So because
Yeah,
the way I understand this is templates are basically a bundling mechanism to deploy various or the same GitOps configurations on top of
correct.
multiple infrastructure types, correct?
Yeah, so the profile section you see here are curated Helm charts that really allow you to deploy consistent clusters. So you could be the platform engineering team and expose only a predefined template. In this case, I call it my gold template, right? And as an end user, I might log in and that's the only template I see available to me. I could limit machine count, region, which profiles are installed, making sure I've got an observability stack installed by default, making
Okay.
sure the policy agent's installed.
It also reminds me a bit the GCP marketplace. It just kind of just a bit. I know that it's oriented more towards the pipeline aspect of it and the rolling updates, but it just kind of remind me this a bit.
Yeah, and the key here is that because we're GitOps, we're going to create a pull request to create that cluster. So rather than going off and issuing a command or running a script, we're going to create a pull request, and only once that's approved, we're gonna actually bootstrap that cluster.
Okay, so show me for a second like a deployment end to end. Can we see that?
Yeah, absolutely. So once you've got your clusters deployed, it's really quite simple to click in here and show which applications are running on there. These will
Okay.
be some of the default ones, but I could also add an additional application. Again, that's all done with Git. So I essentially what I'm doing there is telling the Flux agent that I want you to start reconciling this application onto my
Hmm.
cluster. We do that through the use of pipelines. And pipelines allow us to define an application that's running across multiple environments, which could span multiple clusters in multiple locations.
Hmm.
In this case, I've got a dev test cluster running the latest and greatest version, but I've staged my UAT staging and production clusters on the known good version. And then only when I'm ready to do that promotion between those environments would I do that. And that's all powered with Git, right? So
Hmm.
that definition of what's running within each of these clusters is all within Git. So it's going to have to be approved to do that promotion. There's going to be a record of it, who requested it, who approved it, what changes they made to the environment. And then if I need to roll that back, right, that's one of the main advantages to Git. If something goes wrong,
Yeah.
I can just roll back to my previous version.
I always when I started working with Flux, and I think that was probably 4 years ago ish, when I started
Mhm.
working with that technology and started diving more deep into the world of GitOps. The one thing that was always fascinating to me, and that was actually the time that I really started to dive into the weeds of Git as well. Like, I've been using this, and sure, but I wasn't like a super user. Today, I use a lot, Git, and that's it's part of my day to day. And the thing that I want to say is that the genuine between the Git universe and the rolling application model, that's something that really resonate with me. I always like to, when I'm looking at GitOps, when I do GitOps sessions or when I do demos and all that, that notion of blue green, rolling updates, rollback, those things are something
Yeah,
that I feel, every time I'm doing this, I'm thinking to myself, how come more people are not doing this?
yeah. It's because it's not simple, right? And there's not a lot of expertise. And it's the open source tools are very, very powerful,
Hmm.
and configurable and flexible. But if you're not deep in that world, like if you're just an application developer, right, or a
Yeah,
junior platform administrator, it's hard to do that. That's why we wrap our delivery section here. We wrap a nice management GUI for Flagger, our progressive delivery operator.
yeah,
So within the enterprise version, you get some insight into what is actually running this. In this case, it's a Canary release.
yeah.
So this is the underlying complexity of configuring Flagger. If you know it and love it, then that's great. Flagger is perfect for that.
Yeah.
But if I'm an application owner, all I want to see is that everything is green and my Canary analysis and my rollout completed successfully.
Darren, when I'm looking at, when I'm hearing you explaining about Flagger and all that, and I have a bit of experience with Flagger, just kind of trying to bash my head against the technology and trying to understand the mechanism better, and the moving parts. I can't help thinking about, on a personal note. My wife, she's a Java developer,
Hmm.
and they have their own methodologies and all that. And I'm thinking to myself, just kind of conversations that she and I have. And I'm thinking to myself, man, GitOps, sure, you need to be a bit more Kubernetes oriented, and obviously Git, which is, kind of the de facto standard these days. But I'm thinking to myself, man, this is something that can really help. And again, coming back to the comment that I made, like, I'm always amazed, like, how people are not doing this more.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what Weave GitOps Enterprise helps enable. So you as a platform team can install Weave GitOps Enterprise, configure the repos, configure its Flux to sync those applications, and then provide this user interface to your end users
Mhm.
in a controlled RBAC-based manner. So they would only be able to see the clusters that they're responsible for, the applications that they're responsible for,
Yeah.
um,
So,
and then enable
Darren,
them. Mhm.
yeah. So, Darren, before I'm wrapping things up here with you, which, I it's no secret that I'm a fan, and I love the technology. I wanted to ask you a question regarding regarding the templates mechanism, or not the
Yeah.
mechanism, more around what is the, obviously you talk to a lot of customers and, you work a lot on these projects. What are the most craziest templates that you've seen, like that people are just kind of building?
Yeah, so we have a customer in the leading edge technology crypto space that just has
Hmm.
thousands and thousands of line templates. They want to build their clusters a very, very specific way, and they want to do it on a very large scale. Literally thousands of lines of code our consultants have had to help them write. And it's all about enabling their end users to do that without
Hmm.
having to know how to write thousands of lines of code.
Yeah, it's we when I'm looking at GitOps Enterprise, when I'm looking at the template, right, which
Mhm.
again reminds me, it's a marketplace for GitOps templates, basically. And
Yeah.
I can't stop thinking about the the first version of iPhone with the marketplace. The reason that I'm going back into those things is that we started with just kind of a marketplace to consume application. And I think we got to a point that we are now providing marketplace for deploying a complete end-to-end infrastructure, including the application, security posture, policies, RBAC, everything just kind of bake into that, which to
Yep.
me is super impressive.
Yeah, and it's something we're working on. So typically, well, in today's version, these templates are just about creating clusters with CAPI. Where we're
Yeah,
moving towards is exactly as you said, deploying applications in a similar manner. And we can do that either through Helm chart type deployments or through Terraform. We have the
yeah.
Terraform controller for Flux. So those kinds of things are going to be added so that yeah, this templating method really becomes that single stop to deploy whatever I need to within my
Yeah.
environment.
I can imagine a pipeline that goes, and has this dependency mapping, and just kind of roll out of a cluster, and then the security posture on the cluster, and the policies, and then the applications, and then, you know, again, if you have the right skills, you can also incorporate some logic into the deployment of the applications with some Kubernetes, inline scripts and stuff like that, which kind of creates like this end-to-end deployment. Super cool stuff.
That- That's exactly our goal, and wrapping it in policy is really important. So we brought that Weave policy engine into Weave GitOps here, so that we can enforce all kinds of guardrails and regulatory compliance things at
Yeah.
cluster creation and at application deployment.
Beautiful. I'm loving it, and I love the fact that this is something that is available. Uh, Again, I like simplicity. I like that I'm using things that I don't like fraction. When it comes to this type of stuff, and obviously when you're developing this type of things, you need to think as a DevOps engineer, as an SRE, as a platform engineer, but also get into the mindset of a developer and trying to understand how they're actually consuming software in-house, and not just how they're developing this to the upstream, to the outside world.
Right.
Yeah. All right, Darren, thank you so much for joining me. Obviously, for the Jumpstart audience, we're going to put all the links in the description below for you to go and check that out. Make sure to like and subscribe. And we are, like we mentioned, we're starting a new series with the Weaveworks crew around all things GitOps. Again, Darren, I wanted to say thank you for joining me.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much, everyone, and we're going to see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.